start up, and I appreciate everybody coming here. And like I said, I hope you guys can learn something tonight. It's really up to you. I will share some experiences with you. We have about an hour in 10 minutes. Maybe we go a little longer if it's, but I think we have to be out by pretty much 8:30, right?
8:30 is our regular time.
Okay.
It's not a question.
All right, so basically, guys, when we look at these helping philosophies, I've got a lot of slides here. Maybe I need to go back one, right? Okay. We're basically going to look at the concept of change, and that change is something that is unavoidable in life. The world is changing around us, and people need to adjust to these changes. I find that the most healthy people mentally are people that are flexible in their thinking. That when there's changes in the economy or changes in relationships, that they're able to make adjustments. And if we can learn to make adjustments, well, we can generally be pretty happy and healthy in this world. It's people that refuse to accept the reality of the situation and cannot make changes and adjustments that have problems, okay? We are an expert on our own problems, and when you're talking to your friends, even though they might be in a crisis, they still aren't probably the biggest expert on their own situation. And for that reason, when I'm talking with my friends and trying to help them, I let them tell their story. I don't try to give them easy answers or provide them with easy solutions. I simply first listen to what they have to say. And oftentimes when a person is telling their story, the solution is in the story they're telling, okay? We all have a right to create the life that we want, and that I believe that life is a subjective experience. Nobody really should tell us how to live our life. We need to find that ourselves. And I don't believe we're born with that meaning. I believe we find meaning by doing different things in our life. And if we do enough different things, if we experiment enough with life, we're probably going to find some deeper meaning. We're going to find our purpose. And until we find our purpose, we're just drifting around. So one of our goals is to find meaning and purpose. And that would be another situation that I find in my life with some of my friends, is that they have no meaning or purpose. And if a person doesn't have meaning or purpose, what would be some ways for you to help them find meaning and purpose? Any ideas?
Maybe this person can try different things.
I think experimenting and trying different things, getting the person out of their comfort zone. I also believe that a lot of things probably happened to us in our childhood that wasn't very good, and I think sometimes our culture, and maybe even our parents, got us off in the wrong direction. And sometimes we have to go back a little bit, and we have to ask the person, what did you want to do when you were 11 years old? What did you dream about when you were 10 and 11 years old? And what happened to those dreams? So maybe somehow the person got waylaid. In other words, they lost their meaning through the growing up process, or the not growing up process, okay?
I have a question. But
yeah.
Should we have like many purpose in life or just one purpose? For example, if my purpose in life to buy a car or something, and as soon as I buy it, I don't have any meaning of life, any purpose. Or should we have one big meaning or one big purpose?
Well, of course, once you buy a car, then your next purpose is to buy gasoline, and then things of that nature. Actually, we should have different goals in our life. We should have goals related to education, spiritual goals, social goals, economic goals, family goals. We should have different goals in our life. And those goals can provide us with purpose. So all people should have some goals in your life. Your goal, I'm sure, here at Toastmasters is to perfect your English and to be able to give, good public speeches. So everybody here in this room has at least a couple goals, English and public speaking. And I'm sure you have other goals. But yeah, you need different goals in your life. And
but meaning of life and goals, it's a different thing.
Well, I think meaning in life is something that probably is a foundation point for you. It's a foundation that you build other things on. The meaning or purpose in life is something that, the goals might be centered around. But I think first probably does come meaning and purpose. And what is the meaning? What would be something that you want to dedicate your life to, for example? What is the one thing in life that you want to spend most of your time doing? What's the most important thing for you? That would provide meaning for you. And if you can find that one thing, that one important thing, and you dedicate your time to it, you'll probably be quite happy. You'll be satisfied. Okay? And then you can center goals around that as well. But you should have goals in other areas of your life. But there should be this one focal point that gives you meaning and direction in life. It might be something spiritual, it might be a relationship, it might be a passion, or a hobby or something like that. But you have to have some meaning or purpose. And then you should share that with other people. When you begin to share it, then it takes on a different meaning as well. Okay? Okay. And I'm not going to go through all of these. When we look at problems that people have, when a person talks to me about problems in their life, one of the questions I always have for them is the exception question. And the exception question might be something like this. Was there a time in your life where you didn't have this problem? Or are there times during the day when you feel better and not so bad? So we're trying to give them hope. We're trying to find the times in their life or in their day where they didn't feel this way, where they felt more hope, where they felt more positive energy. And generally speaking, people can always, no matter how down they are or how depressed they are, they can always point to a part of their life or a time in their life where things were better. Okay? Choices. Life is about choices, and we have individual choices to make, and our choices should matter in pretty much everything that we do. Every thought that we think has some effect. There's a ripple effect on all of our decisions and choices, okay? And what I have found is that people that make good choices generally are healthier and happier, okay? The question is, how do we know what to choose? How do we know which choice to make, okay? First steps in helping other people, and I'm going through this quickly, but try to be healthy yourself. And the fact is that most people in my profession are actually not very healthy people. Okay? Most psychologists are suffering from depression. Okay, there's a lot of psychologists that got into this field because they themselves are a bit depressed. They may just be deeply philosophical people, and as a result of trying to understand the world and all the complexities of it, they find themselves a little bit lost themselves, okay? Be aware of your unresolved issues. It's hard to help somebody when you have these big problems yourself, okay? And the tendency, of course, is when two depressed people get together, okay, usually nothing is resolved. You might feel good for a while, and you might feel you found your soulmate, but your depression typically doesn't go away when one depressed person is trying to help another, okay? But if there was a depressed person that got over their depression and they're helping a person who's depressed, there's a very good chance that that person actually might be able to help that person. Yeah.
I remember you said that if you want to get a good advice in some critical situation, you should ask your friend who is in depression.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and I believe that is true, that when I am suffering, when I have a bad day, I'm more likely to go to somebody who is pessimistic or depressed because they're more likely to give me information that's more realistic. Optimistic people oftentimes tell me the same thing, and that is, don't worry, this problem's going to go away, you have nothing to worry about, etc. That's probably one of the worst pieces of advice we can give another person, is that you're just imagining this, you really don't have anything to worry about. When we're listening to a person's problems, even though their problems may seem insignificant to us, it's very important for them. And we should validate our clients. We should validate our friends. If they're worried about losing their job, we can say, look, I understand. I understand. Tell me about this. Okay? I'm here to listen to what you have to say. Okay? So we want to validate their concerns, at least at the beginning, get them on our side, and then maybe we can start modifying a little bit. We can provide them maybe with evidence that suggests, wait a second, you know, you're a great worker. Why would you lose your job? Have you ever been fired before? Then we can start providing them with evidence that suggests that maybe their worrying doesn't make sense. But at the beginning, we want to validate. We want to listen to what they have to say and say, okay, tell me more about that. Okay? We want to be very, very good listeners at the beginning. Now, Alex had a question, and
Yeah.
go ahead. And then,
So do you believe that emotions are contagious? And if emotions are contagious, so how do you, get yourself back in a good mood after speaking to lactosely depressed people?
well, we know that emotions are contagious. They've done studies at universities where they had, let's say, a depressed person, and then they bring another person in as their roommate, and we find that that person that comes in as the new roommate ends up having a better chance of becoming depressed simply because they're living with a depressed person. So if you have a depressed friend, and it's your only friend, chances are you might become depressed too, because part of their depression is going to rub off on you. Okay? And that's why we have to sometimes tell a person, look, I will listen to you, and I will give you 5 minutes to tell me your complaints, but what we find with depressed people is they start complaining and blaming. That is a symptom of depression, is to blame the world for their problems and to blame other people, and they don't see the positive. So with some of my depressed friends, and I have a couple of them, I say, look, I'll give you 5 minutes to talk about all the bad things, and then we're going to talk about good things. And if you keep talking about all your problems, I'm sorry, I just don't have time for that today. So maybe I'm not being a really good friend, but there are some people that are like a broken record. They keep repeating the same thing again and again and again. And I have to tell them, no, I'm not going to hear this again. You've already made that point. Now let's go on to something else. And so again, we have to set boundaries for some of these people. Now, as a therapist, of course, I'm being paid for that. But as a friend, well, it's different. I'm sorry, it's different. So as a therapist, yeah, I will listen to my client's complaint, and I will try to reframe that. I will try to get them to be more specific. But with friends, sometimes we have to draw that line. We have to say, look, you have a few minutes, and then we need to move on to something else. Okay? Did you have well, did I answer your question?
That was my question.
Okay. All right.
I just wanted to, you already said a little bit of my point. I want just to say that you told that optimistic people always say like, don't worry, it's going to be okay, and it makes no sense for people with depression. But what do we have to tell them? Yes, it's very bad. Maybe we can listen to them, but also give them this positivity. I mean, optimistic people also can, I think, help people in depression if they not only do these cliche phrases like it's gotta be okay, but some particular stuff like, for example, my sister today in the morning was very depressed. I don't know, maybe it's the heat of the summer, but I told her, no, it's okay. You go to
You
the
could just
shower.
say in the winter, just 6 months, you'll be okay.
Yes.
You'll be cool in 6 months. So
I
just,
mean, I said,
okay.
I listened to her, but not really much. I said her, it's okay, you go to the shower and we'll talk later. And she became really more positive after that.
Well, sometimes taking a shower, in fact, with a lot of people, that's actually a very therapeutic thing, to go into a shower and just say, look, your problems are on your body, go into the shower and wash all your problems away. It will go right down the drain. And that can be a technique, a strategy. You're actually getting her away from the depression, and you're actually having her do something proactive.
I mean, optimism also can be contagious, as with depression.
Optimism can be contagious, except we tend to see more negatives than positive. That's just the way the human psyche works. We tend to focus more on negative things than positive things, okay? But positive people, they have to provide specific solutions. They can't just say, well, things are going to be better, okay? Or, you know, common expression is time is a great healer. Just, you know, give yourself some time. Now, those are nice things to say, but, you know, I think you have to be a little bit more specific than that. And I will get into some specific things that you can say. And a lot of this has to do with the person that you're dealing with. You might be able to say one thing to one person that might work, but it might not work with another person. And so what we need to do is figure out the personality style of our friend and match our words to that particular style, okay? And in psychological terms, we call it diagnoses. A lot of the people that I work with have a diagnosis, and so I'm tailoring my therapies to the person's diagnosis. But everybody here has a diagnosis. All of us are a mixture of different disorders, but most of us have got these disorders under control, okay? Some people don't.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
You know, once, again, I read that the main point of depression is that we are not grateful for what we have and compare ourselves not with someone who have less, but who have more than we are, who are more successful, more assertive, has more money. Maybe that's why we should, when we have bad mood, we should compare, oh, I'm not living in Africa, for example, or I have a roof, I have food.
Well, that can work. That can be a coping strategy. And you're right. If we compare ourselves to people that are wealthier, more beautiful, more intelligent, we're probably going to get in a bad mood. And so I try to find somebody like Alex, and I compare myself to him, and I start feeling better right away. No, sorry, Alex. I'm just joking. Okay. But yeah, we have to be very careful with comparisons. Okay, in fact, almost all comparisons are wrong, and that usually comes from our childhood when maybe our parent compared us to somebody, and that's a very unfair thing to happen. And if we came out of a family system where comparisons were common, we're always going to come up on the short end. Okay, so we have to be very careful about that. But yeah, I think sometimes we can think about this misery and suffering of others. I mean, if you guys really get in a down mood, I suggest going into one of the hospitals here where kids are dying of cancer. You spend a few hours there, and you'll probably realize how well your life is. Okay, because believe me, there's a tremendous amount of suffering going on right in this city. It's all over the place. If you open your eyes, you can see it. Most of us don't want to see it, but there's institutions and facilities where people really are suffering, and all of you guys are young and healthy, and you've got good brains. Not everybody is like that, so I don't think it should be that difficult for you to find these comparisons, okay? And that can be a strategy. It can be a way to feel better, is to look at the suffering that other people have. And I know a lot of people complain about Ukraine, but Ukrainians actually live better than most people on this planet. Trust me. I've traveled all over. I've been to the third world and just came back from South Africa. Ukrainians actually have a fairly high quality of life. You guys have a chance to have a good education. You have certain freedoms here. It's maybe not as good as it should be here, but it's better than most places on the planet. Okay? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people who are told that there are people with worse problems than theirs, saying that I don't care about other people's problems, I'm suffering now, and I don't care if there is someone dying right now, or something like that.
If a person says that? Okay. Well, and there are people that they don't have that empathy for others. Empathy is a great skill, and not everybody has that skill developed. Younger people, teenagers especially, they lack these empathy skills. And but sometimes we simply have to take them and show them that there are people who are suffering, that are not doing well. We want to listen, when we talk about people that are depressed, we might ask them what they're happy for. What are they, a gratitude journal is what we call it, where we make them keep track of all the good things in their life, because there's a tendency to think about only the bad things, okay? And also doing good. What I have found is that people that provide good service, who do volunteer work, they tend to be happier than people who live their own self-centered lives. So one way of feeling better about the world and yourself is to do things for other people. Okay? And I just have noticed that in my own life. It's the happiest people that I have met on this planet are people that are dedicated to helping other people. And a lot of times they're doing it as volunteers. Okay? Yeah.